Shalom, family. I have a question here, a very interesting question. This is a question that no one has ever asked me on this channel, and it needs to be brought before everyone that everyone will understand the answer to this question, because we've already mentioned this false prophet that's within the borders leading people astray with false teaching. And so the question is, are you still available for marriage? Is this person still available for marriage? They are not a virgin. Here's the deal. They're not a virgin. And so if they had sex before, they've been married before, are they still available for marriage? This is what we're gonna have to answer here. Miss Meeks, and this is the question. Of course, I did answer this. You're going to see the answer. I do have a sincere question, and it is very sincere question. This came from the relationships within the borders videos and how we are to be fruitful and multiply. And this is a commandment. And Edom turned this thing upside down. We have people in their 30s and 40s and no kids. That's unfruitful. I was listening to another channel that I'm no longer subscribe to for false doctrines. Good for you. Hats off. Yada Yahuwah. But when I was subscribed, I was told that any woman that is not a virgin is no longer available for marriage. That is most definitely untrue for both men and women. And we have scriptures to prove it. That the act of sex itself is marriage. This is 100% correct according to scripture. Family, you see how they do? They put truth and lies and mix them together. And people may not know which one is true. Yaakov told Laban, give me my wife that I may go into her. And he went into her and she became his wife. We see this all through scripture. We see men not going into their wife, and they become widows. I have sincerely repented for each time there was an act of sex prior to me coming into the truth. Many people have sex with people in the Most High's eyes. That person became your husband. That person became your wife. Our problem is we didn't know what was marriage. We thought marriage meant going before a preacher, going before the judge, getting a marriage license. We thought that was marriage. That's marriage according to Edom. Am I still available for marriage? I have never legally been married. What she's saying, she never got a marriage license. She never went before a preacher or a judge. These are the requirements in order for the states to recognize or honor your marriage and have no children. And my response, Shabbat Shalom, yes, that's a false doctrine and unscriptural. Yes, you are available for marriage and should be fruitful and multiply. It's the same thing that she heard in the video. Listen, family, the Most High meant for us to be fruitful and multiply. The enemy wants us to be unfruitful. Don't multiply so that we die out. That's the enemy's plan. That's why Shaul told us it's best to stay unmarried. You'll be closer to the Father. No one was closer to the Father than those high priests, than those anointed Mashiachs, and they were married. What are we thinking? We don't listen to Paul. You can be as pure as the Father wants you to be and married. Noah, Abraham, Shem, and married. How can Abraham continue? How can he multiply unless he marries? See how it ties in? The enemy didn't want us to do this. Genesis 1:28. There are many examples of women and men marrying after being married before. In 1 Samuel 25, we see a man named Nabal. He was a scoundrel, wicked man. And his wife named Abigail. She was a virtuous woman, righteous woman, wise, full of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And in verse 3, this is what happened. He was a wicked. We see he was wicked. In verse 38, Yahuwah struck Nabal and he died. This was her husband. They were married. Abigail was free from him to marry another. And in verse 39, here comes dude. The anointed one proposed to Abigail. He proposed to her in 39 to take her for a wife. And in verse 42, she became his wife. She remarried. False teaching, that false prophet. Listen, she is leading people astray on purpose. She knows what she's doing. They have a way with words. That doesn't mean the Most High is with them. Some of the Christian pastors, they have a way with words, but that doesn't mean the Most High with them. And she sounds believable, but she doesn't use scripture to back what she's saying. That's the problem. You cannot find a verse that says, okay, you've been married, you can't remarry. So Deuteronomy 24, 1 through 4. This is in the Torah. When a man takes a wife and marries her, and it happens that she finds no favor in his eyes because he has found some uncleanliness in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce. All right, they're no longer married. He wrote a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, sends her out to his house. When she has departed from his house and goes and becomes another man's wife. What is this lady talking about? That wicked teaching. Become another. Yeah, she can marry again. If the latter husband, the second husband, detests her, this is what it was about. Because he married her, he went into her. She's not a virgin. And writes her a certificate of divorce, puts it in her hand, and sends her out of his house. This is what it's about. This is what Yahuwah was teaching us. And if the latter husband dies, took her as a wife, then the former husband, the first husband, who divorced her, must not take her back. This is what he was teaching us. But in the process, she married one man, then divorced, married another man. He died. Now the first husband can't marry her no more. That would be defilement. Back to be his wife after she has been defiled. He called us. He can't go back into her. Another man can. For that is an abomination before Yahuwah. How many times we dealt with this? You married, you going into a female, then you let her go, and now she's with somebody else. 2 years, 3 years later, you reconcile the marriage, get back together. That's defile. That's an abomination before Yahuwah. And you shall not bring iniquity on the land. You're in Babylon, don't worry about this. See? In the land, don't do this in the land. You're in your land of captivity, you can do whatever. It's legal. Adultery is completely legal in Babylon. This right here is completely legal. This isn't unrighteousness or an abomination in Babylon. This is talking about in the land. Don't do this in the land. Most High said, do whatever you want in the land of your captivity. If you have nothing to do with him, go ahead. In the land which Yahuwah your Lord is giving you as an inheritance. We see in Matthew, here's another great example. There are many examples, of course, Matthew 22, 24 through 28. Yahusha was asked this, teacher, watch this, family, teacher. Moshe said, this is how they talking. They should be saying, yeah, Moshe did give them this, Moshe did write this, but they should be saying, the Torah says, Moshe said they was against Moshe and Yahusha. This is what they were. They were leaders against Moshe and Yahusha. They trying to be funny. Moshe said if a man dies having no children, his brother shall marry his wife. This is the duty of the brother that's not being taught. Now people don't know this. I had to teach my grown sons this. and have them prepared. And they're not married, but I have to prepare as their father. I have to prepare them and get their mindsets ready for this. And most of my sons, they have a mindset of this. They understand this, and they're prepared to do the duties of the brother. They must do it. They understand it. The brother shall marry his wife, but she's able to marry again and raise up offspring for his brother. His seed is cut. He didn't have a son. This is what it's about. Now there were with us 7 brothers. The first died after he had married, having no offspring, left his wife to his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third, and all the way up to the 7th. This happened 7 times. See, as long as it continued to happen, this is correct. According to Torah, she has no male offspring. She can have a female, but she needs a male offspring. So to carry that bloodline, that seed, the name of the father, left his wife to his brother. Likewise, all them went to the 7th. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, here they go with a trick question. In the resurrection, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they all had her. They all went into her. She was able to marry another one, and another one, and another one. What do you mean you gotta be a virgin? That's a wicked voice trying to get us not to multiply. There are many more examples of men and women marrying again after being married before. And of course, people that are not married ask the father for a righteous husband or a righteous wife. Don't just ask for a righteous husband, right? You have to add more, full of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in the scripture. But we got some righteous people, and they don't know a whole lot of scripture. They're unwise. They're still making a lot of mistakes. You want a man or woman full of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And yes, when they're weak, if they have potential and the Most High putting it together, then go with it. Allow to be led by the Most High. Allow him to put this thing together. And I'm sure this is gonna spark something in people, because the lie went forth, correction coming now, and Miss Meeks she understands. From her response, she understands that she's available for marriage, and the Most High want her to marry and to have children. Most importantly, he does not want you to be unfruitful. When you're unfruitful, you praising the enemy. You're saying yada to the enemy, praising the enemy. When you're fruitful and multiplying, you praising the Most High. People don't know who they praising. The answer, yes, you can remarry. You can marry. You don't have to be a virgin. That crap in Revelations, they're talking about the 144,000 of virgins. There are absolutely no precept to this. We put the book of Revelation to the challenge. That may have been one of the challenge. I'm not for sure. Remember in that video, I do remember there were many that were left out. My son wrote down many contradictions. No prophet, it never came out the mouth of the Father. 144,000 virgins. That's madness. When the priests, they're the highest, they're the Kadash of the Kadash. They're the ones that connect and join the rest of the people. Yasharah and Gouin to the Father. They were married. If the high priest didn't have sex, then there will be no more high priest. That's the enemy's. That's what's in the enemy's heart. Once we know and understand this stuff, we change our lives. We change our thinking and our mindset. Them preachers had wives. They were having relations. They weren't virgins. Now, their wives, them high priests, they had to get virgin wives. And then some of them, if they were married to a priest, they weren't a virgin, they could marry another priest. Let the Most High's word stay strong, and all the enemies get back. Shalom.